sitting in Family Focus. And I thought I would ask you about what role this building played in your life, why it's important to you.
This building, this campus, actually, because I think of Family Focus and Fleetwood Jourdain, which used to be Foster Center, in the same breath. Like my parents were married 58 years. I think of them in the same breath. Edna and Bill, I think of them in the same breath. I think of this campus in the same breath. To lose one of them would be horrific. It's like, cutting off an arm or a leg, really. This place has been such it's in the fabric of our community. It is, when I think community, I took this class called Leadership Evanston. And at one point they asked you, draw a picture of community. What does that look like to you? For me, it was this campus right here, Fleetwood Jourdain Family Focus Building. My mother went to school here. My mother would be 98 this year. She went to school here. I went to school here. This was in the 1920s. I went to school here in the 60s, although some of my siblings and family, it was a lot of us, were here in the 50s and 60s. I have nieces that went to school here in the 70s, and actually a great niece that went to school here last year. There's a little school class. There's a classroom here in this building right now. There's a little school.
Yes.
And she went here last year in 2016. And that's not even talking about the family. I'm just talking education at that point. I'm not even talking about Family Focus, which has been huge in our community for teen mothers. There's a group here now with young men, fathers, food pantries. There's a computer lab down here. My mother was born 2 blocks away on Jackson, 1900 blocks of Jackson. My grandfather was on the 1900 block of Asbury. I was born at Community Hospital 3 blocks away from here on Brown and Simpson, as was a lot of us. There are a lot of families, a lot of black families that have been here for 60, 80, 100 years, and this place is home to all of us. This is the place where you come for counsel, for comfort, it's a safe place. This is our home. And the last thing that should happen is that we lose this place in our community. I'm part of the fabric here, and it's part of me. And not just me, all of us.
And
there's a lot of us, generations of us. When I was growing up here in this community, right here, my family's been on the same block. I bought my family house. We've been there since the 1925 or something like that. My family's been in the Fifth Ward since the 1890s. Okay.
Who came here?
My great-grandfather.
From where?
From South Carolina, which a lot of the older black families are from there. I'm just cheering for this place. There's so many people, not only who are here now, Miss Colette and the guy who just locked up this door, and the people, the different services that are in this building, and just good people, good things happen here. 1890s. But this place calls to our community, and we need to answer that call. We need to have a say of what happens here. It would be horrible to lose this place. So, onward.
What do you hope for this place? What do you hope happens?
Well, ultimately, I thought about landmark status, possibly that. Ultimately, that this place that has done so for over 100 years, this place was built, I think, in 1905 or something like that, that it continues to serve and develop people in this community, and that people in this community have a stake in it, that we are already vested in it, but that we have a stake in it and have some say in what goes on here. When I was growing up in this community, in the Fifth Ward, we had all of our own stuff. We had a black hospital, community hospital, where I was born. All my siblings were born. Most of my relatives were born. We had our own school. We had Foster School. We had Foster Center, which is now Fleetwood Jourdain. We had delicatessens, Jack Moss. We had gas stations. We had restaurants. We had a pharmacy, Doc Morrison's pharmacy. We had little mom and pop grocery stores and corner stores. We had 2 taxi cab services. We had a bus service. We had a newspaper, the CCC. We had our own stuff. And after integration, all of that gone. It seems like we paid a heavy toll, a very high price. And to lose this place is just another big rip from our community. That's how I feel about it.
That we're sitting in Family Focus. And I thought I would ask you about what role this building played in your life, in anybody else's life that you know, why it's important to you, what some of your memories about Family Focus.
This building, this campus, actually, because I think of Family Focus and Fleetwood Jourdain, which used to be Foster Center, in the same breath. Like my parents were married 58 years. I think of them in the same breath. Edna and Bill, I think of them in the same breath. I think of this campus in the same breath. To lose one of them would be horrific. It's like, cutting off an arm or a leg, really. This place has been such it's in the fabric of our community. It is, when I think community, I took this class called Leadership Evanston. And at one point they asked you, draw a picture of community. What does that look like to you? For me, it was this campus right here, Fleetwood Jourdain Family Focus Building. My mother went to school here. My mother would be 98 this year. She went to school here. I went to school here. This was in the 1920s. I went to school here in the 60s, although some of my siblings and family, it was a lot of us, were here in the 50s and 60s. I have nieces that went to school here in the 70s, and actually a great niece that went to school here last year. There's a little school class. There's a classroom here in this building right now. There's a little school.
Yes.
And she went here last year in 2016. And that's not even talking about the family. I'm just talking education at that point. I'm not even talking about Family Focus, which has been huge in our community for teen mothers. There's a group here now with young men, fathers, food pantries. There's a computer lab down here named after another member of our community. Has been here. Her family's been here forever. My mother was born 2 blocks away on Jackson, 1900 blocks of Jackson. My grandfather was on the 1900 block of Asbury. I was born at Community Hospital 3 blocks away from here on Brown and Simpson, as was a lot of us. There are a lot of families, a lot of black families that have been here for 60, 80, 100 years, and this place is home to all of us. This is the place where you come for counsel, for comfort, it's a safe place. This is our home. And the last thing that should happen is that we lose this place in our community.
When you went to school here, what grades did it serve?
It went from kindergarten to 6th grade. And I think the year after I left, I got integrated for 1 year. I went to Lincolnwood for 1 year. I never knew racism before that. We were always the jewel of our community. Brightness and hope for the future for everybody we ever saw. Teachers wouldn't allow you to fail. ABC, do it again, come to my house on Saturday, stay here another year, but we will not send you to Haven and have Orrington and Lincolnwood teachers tell us we can't teach. They were not having that, period. And not only that, but everybody from, I could name streets, I won't, in this whole community, in this, what we think of as a black community, went to school here, all the way up to Church Street, from the canal to Church Street, and from Green Bay to the canal again. You knew every yard you could cut through, every mean lady that would keep your ball, every good apple tree, everybody waving out of their windows, people who walk their dogs, people on the bus stop, everybody's older and younger brothers and sisters. You knew all the perverts who would chase kids. You knew them. Everybody knew them. And now these kids in this very same neighborhood go to 8 or 10 different schools, and it destroys our neighborhood. When children don't know each other, then parents don't know each other, and everybody's a stranger in their own neighborhood. And it shows up as McDonald's bags in your sidewalk, or kids that are cursing in front of you might curse at you. It shows up as fights in high school, and even after that, maybe even people who will shoot you, because otherwise you had that fight in 3rd grade. It's over.
So what changed in the neighborhood, in the community?
Integration. At first it was integration, but for 40 years, or a very, very long time, it's just been desegregation. Integration is like this. Black kids get bussed out, white kids get bussed in, which is what happened here at first, the first, I don't know, few years. But then when they closed the school and moved it to King Lab to over on Lake Street, then it became desegregation. One way, one way, one way. And these children around here are never the jewel of their community of brightness and hope for the future for everybody they ever see, which again is a travesty as far as I'm concerned. Anyway.
When you said you were born at community hospital, so do you remember when community hospital was closed?
I was living out of town at the time, but yes, I do.
And did that have the same sort of feeling for you about family focus?
Well, let me be more clear. It's not just community hospital. When I was growing up here in this community, right here, my family's been on the same block. I bought my family house. We've been there since the 1925 or something like that. My family's been in the 5th Ward since the 1890s. Okay.
Who came here?
My great-grandfather.
From where?
From South Carolina, which a lot of the older black families are from there. A lot of them.
From Abbeville, or?
I'm not exactly sure which. Columbia, Abbeville, around in that area, probably.
And so it was your great-grandfathers?
Yes.
And they came here in the
1890s.
And your whole family's been here ever since?
Yes.
That's
yes.
a long time.
Still here. What, 6, 7 generations? A lot.
And you live in the house that your great-grandfather lived in?
No, that my grandfather lived in.
Really?
Yes.
And what did your great-grandfather come here to do? Was he running away?
I saw him. I don't know about that, but I did see a picture of him. I think he was the first black city worker, and it was a picture of him with a horse and a great big wagon. I think he was like the garbage man. My grandfather was the first black committeeman in the state of Illinois.
Really?
He was ward chairman of the 5th Ward, and 5th Ward was the only Democratic ward in Evanston. I remember people used to come to our house and say, will you help us get lights at this park, or get this street paved, or get somebody a job, or help somebody get out of jail, or whatever. He was just a regular guy, went to work every day. My mother was a 3-term alderman, township supervisor, probably more.
Alderman of the 5th Ward?
Yes.
And what was her name?
Edna Summers.
And your dad's name?
William Summers. My brother was a 2-term alderman in 5th Ward also. I've been elected to the Board of Education twice myself, actually.
And what did you do, or do you do for a profession?
I think of myself as a generalist. I create artifacts that change the way people live. Lately, I've been writing, but I've done many, many things. I started my first business when I was 17.
And what was it?
Oh, I was giving these old ladies facials. They were like 30 years old.
Really?
Yes.
You were giving them facials?
Yeah, I made a whole lot of money doing like herbal skincare. Yeah, sure did.
At the age of 17?
Yes.
Good for you. Wow. Okay, what else have you done?
Oh, let's see. I paid my first year of college shooting pool.
Where did you go to college?
My first year I went to Morris Brown College in Atlanta. I finished at Alabama A&M University. I paid my second year, I'd rent a carpet cleaner, 3 carpets, $35. My junior year, I painted addresses on curbs, $7 a pop. And my senior year, I had a landscaping business. So I thought I went to school to get a degree. What I learned is how to take care of myself with or without a job. That's what I learned.
And then you mentioned that you've been homeless a couple of times.
Yeah, twice.
Can you talk about that?
Well, I mean, it sucks, Yeah, I've been homeless. I've been hungry. the first time I was in college. You know, the first I slept in my car, made a deal with a guy at the gas station. I'll clean both bathrooms if you let me park my car here and sleep. And he was lazy anyway, but to me, it was hot and cold running water, electricity. I could wash my clothes, iron my clothes. It was light so I could study at night and a safe place to sleep. I wasn't going to tell him that, though. He'd probably charge me to clean those stupid bathrooms.
And were you homeless just because you didn't have the money for college?
No, I didn't have money for college, but more importantly than that, I was not living an honorable life for a while. I came from a good family. I mean, I knew better. I just totally ignored all that good home training I had. And one year, between 19 and 20, I was a pallbearer at 3 of my friends' funerals in 1 year. All of them drug and alcohol related. And at the third one's funeral, I saved the third one's life when we were like 10 years old, maybe. At his funeral, it was just too painful. But for an instant, I was at the repast and I just blanked for an instant. Had to be 100 people there. I just blanked for an instant. I see 3 drops, 1, 2, 3. Third one landed between my feet, and from God's mouth to my ears said, "Straighten up your life or you're the next one in line." I heard it just like that, and then everybody was back. It took me decades before I told anybody about it because it sounds too fantastical, you know what I mean? 3 days later, I moved 800 miles away, got in college. You know, because I said, well, who's not going to jail? Who's not getting killed? Whose parents are proud of them? You know, mine weren't. You know.
And what do you think it was that you didn't listen to your parents? What was the intrigue of the non-honorable life, the dishonorable life?
Well, I was a very sickly child, very sickly. I almost died a couple times. But so when I got healthy, I just wanted to live. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. Do everything one time. Go where I wanted to go, do what I wanted to do. And that's what I did. I mean, I wasn't aiming at anybody. It's just, you know, it was me. But, I mean, I wasn't robbing and stealing and selling drugs, but I was doing other things I had no business doing, you know, that you don't want your kids doing. And
then you heard this voice and you said, "I'm done, I'm going to college." You left Evanston.
Yes, 3 days later. I hadn't even applied. My birthday is September 4th. It's Monday coming up. And so I knew school was just starting. I told my parents, I said, "Look, I'm going to school." I had moved out of home from 2 or 3 years before that. I left home when I was 18. I was 21 then. It was my 21st birthday. And his 21st birthday was it was the worst birthday ever for the funeral, right? And so I knew school was just starting. It always starts at my birthday, always. And so I just looked at some catalogs and went. I hadn't applied or anything. And so I lived on campus for 3 or 4 days, hated it, because I had my own apartment, 2 10-speed bicycles, a nice car, making $20,000 a year before I went to college, you know? And then I'm in this little tiny room with this other guy and share a communal bathroom with 30 other guys.
And did your parents support you at all in it, like financially?
No. I never asked them for anything. Never. I think, no. Long story short, no.
And then
I paid my own way for everything.
And then you came back to Evanston after college?
No. I've lived in 5 states.
Tell me about that.
I lived in Georgia, Alabama, which is where I finished college, Texas. I lived there for 9 years, Austin, Texas. Then I came back here my parents were getting old and sicklier, but my father and I didn't get along well, so, you know, God bless him, but we couldn't make it, no. So I started some retail shops. I moved to Wisconsin, to Milwaukee, and I ultimately had 4 retail shops. And then when he died, I came back. I took care of my mother for 5 years. My ex-wife and I. And she loved my mother loved her, and she took fantastic care of my mother. And then I bought the house, you know, so the place I couldn't wait to get away from. I bought that house.
And what year was that?
96?
Wow.
No. like 2001.
So the place you couldn't wait to get away from. What made you decide to buy it?
It's my home. Like this place here is our home. This is my home, right here. We're sitting in my home right now, Family Focus. We're there.
So this is just where you know who you are, you know where you've been. It
Yes.
makes you feel safe, like you said.
Not just safe, I'm part of the fabric here, and it's part of me. You know, and not just me, all of us.
And
There's a lot of us, generations of us.
Do you have kids?
Yeah.
And did they go to school here?
No. They grew up out of state.
Ah, okay. And you mentioned that you've been shot.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was out with people I didn't know in a place I had no business being. I was young and stupid, you know, what can I say? A fight broke out. I was standing there looking, and then this guy pulled out, instead of leaving like I was supposed to, you know, you're supposed to leave. Fight breaks out, go, you know, leave. Guy pulls out a gun. Then he looked right at me. That's when I ran, you know, just in time to be too late. And he shot me, you know, but the good thing is he was shooting like a cowboy. You know, he was like this. You know. He couldn't shoot, so, you know, I got shot in the leg.
And how old were you?
20-something, 19, 20, I don't know, young.
You got shot in the leg in Evanston.
No, on the north side. I mean, if I saw the guy today, I wouldn't know who he is. You know, really, I wouldn't know who he is.
So what happened? Did you go to the
Well,
hospital?
no, I came home. I talked to my father. My father was a grizzled World War II veteran. Walked across North Africa with the Patton Army fighting Rommel the Desert Fox, into Italy, Mussolini, fascism, onto Omaha Beach, D-Day. My old man was rough cut from the word go. I said, Dad, I got shot. I showed him my bloody leg. He said, that's what you get for messing with those people's wives. And we cracked up laughing. That's not what happened at all. But he was kind of smart alecky like that. Man, we cracked up laughing. So he said, you want to go to the hospital? No. If I go to the hospital, they got to call the police. Well, it's not a black man in America wants to sign involved with the criminal justice system if they don't have to. So we went to Walgreens, got razor blades, tweezers, gauze, tape, back to the backyard. And he said, be patient, son. I want you to cut at this angle, go in this way. If you feel this or that, stop. And I'm thinking, wow, he's done this before. I mean, nobody imagines their father doing field surgery, you know what I mean? But if you think about it, on D-Day, Omaha Beach, there were 3,000 people dead before lunchtime. Not only that, but I realized that, I've seen his body, 100 times. And some of the scars on his body were wounds like my bullet wound. I didn't know that until then. Not only that, but I had never seen such a look of concern for me on his face. I was like, whoa, maybe he does, give a rat's butt about me.
But that's what's so interesting is because you said you and your dad didn't get along at all.
No.
But it sounds like in this particular case, he was right there for you.
Oh, absolutely. So I cut, he dug. It seemed like it took a long time. It didn't take that, probably 2 or 3 minutes. But it really hurt really
He's
bad.
in the middle of the night.
No, it was daytime.
Oh, daytime.
And, it was still light outside. It was night, but it was, long summer days kind of thing. And finally, he comes out with this bullet in the tweezers, right? And I could see the relief on his face. And he held it up, and with a hint of a smile, he said, be careful, son. And he just throws it over his shoulder and walks away. Now, him and I, we gained something for each other that day. We never talked about it. He never asked what happened. But that's the coolest my father's ever been in his whole entire life right there. That's my number one favorite memory of my father.
What a story.
Yeah, be careful, son, Yeah, it was great.
Unbelievable. And what do you think is, in terms of going back to talking about Evanston, what do you love about Evanston? What do you think are its strengths, and what do you think are its challenges?
First of all, this is the land where my fathers died, land of Pilgrim's Pride for me. This is home for me, period. I think that Evanston's image of itself is not even close to the reality of itself. We talk about we love our diversity, And it's true, as long as it's gone by 3:30. That's how I feel about it. You have very wealthy people, you have very poor people here. And, a good thing about it is no matter where you live or what your situation is, you still know rich people. You know them. You've sometimes been to their homes and so forth. It doesn't freak you out. It's not some faraway thing for you. It's part of, this place. When people know how to read and write when they graduate from high school. Police come when you call them. People speak to you on the street. When people say they have their education, they're talking about college. Lots and lots of people grow up in homes or have family and friends who grow up in homes. It's not like everybody's in an apartment or a project or none of that. I mean, some of it, but not everybody by a long shot. We see people, we know people, we have friends, everybody, from, high school age on up. Everybody has friends who've gone to college and done whatever they're going to do in their lives or not, or people who go to work every day. We all know people who go to work every day. Everybody knows people like that. That's a good thing. I think that the wealthier people here, they think here we go. I think a lot of white people just don't see you. They don't see us. They say, oh, I don't see color. Well, it does exist. I am not a white guy with a black face. I am not. Culturally, none of that. I'm not. I'm a black man. I'm an African American man. I'm a black man. I am.
You want to be seen that way.
Not only that, but our issues are not necessarily the same. Now, in the whole world, people are people. You know what I mean? But our issues are not necessarily the same, and our communities are not necessarily the same. They are not. I've been in several countries on 3 continents, and I found that the majority people, or the people who are the dominant culture, whatever that is, they have some common assumptions. One is they think their stuff is better. 2, they think everybody wants to be like them. And 3 is that if you don't want to be like them, something's wrong. Well, that's not necessarily so. So a lot of times, like I said, they don't see you, or they think your concerns are the same as theirs. And, they don't necessarily, it's not like they're aiming at you, but you keep getting hit, like this situation right here, right now. Okay? They weren't aiming at me, but they hit me. And it's not until, they step on your toes and you scream real loud, and then they say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. But you got 3 or 4 broken toes. In this case, losing this building would be horrific for us. That's how I feel about it.
And how would you imagine closing that gap? I don't even know what the question is. How could, wealthy white Evanston and the historic black community in Evanston, is there a way for it to get closer, for there to be more understanding, recognition? Do you even know what I'm asking?
I don't know if I do or not, but
I don't either.
I like to think so. But I'll tell you something that happened to me a few years ago. I was at a place up here in Wilmette, and there was a wealthy white woman that came in. I was working, and she realized that I lived in Evanston, and she said, "Well, where do you live?" And I said, "Well, without being politically correct, I live on the black folks' side of the canal." And she said, "Oh, you shouldn't say that." And I said, "Well, you know where it is, don't you?" She, "Well, yes." "Okay, I know where you live. It's not where I live." She said, "Well, it's not like that anymore, is it?" I said, "Ma'am, chose my house, just like you chose your house. And if you have zero Black, Latino, Asians on your block, I know where you live. If you have zero of them on your block, you don't lose 1 minute of sleep. If I don't have any white people on my block, I don't lose 1 minute of sleep. Furthermore, now there are white people on my block at this point, and some Latinos and on and on, but that's not the point. But I said also, you know, if other races move on into my neighborhood and they're good neighbors, I'm okay with that, you know, thank God. However, every time one of them move in, one of my dear neighbors who I love has to go. That's not a joyous occasion for me. I picked my home. I don't want to live where you live. I love my neighborhood. So, and I think she was stunned by that.
Right.
You know?
That's a really good story. What about all the people who are leaving this neighborhood and leaving Evanston from the African American community?
I think
a lot of them have left.
Yes, a lot have left. A lot get priced out, gentrified out. But I think also this is my personal point of view, and I don't have any statistics on this, but I think that a lot of Black families who own homes here, when the elders died or whatever, they left their home to 2 or 3 children, 4 children, and at that point, you know, people, well, I want my money, I want to get a new car, it's not your house, it's my house, but all of that stuff. So you sell the house and everybody gets a new car, but the house is gone.
Right.
I think it would be better, personally, this is my point of view, people will certainly dispute this or debate this, give the house to one person, give the insurance money to another one, give everything in the house and the car to another one, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. That way you don't lose your homes and you don't lose your community. But, you know, that's not my call. That's my point of view, though.
That's interesting. Tell me about I told you I bought your book. Tell me a little bit about your book and why you wrote it and when you wrote it and what it's called.
Well, the name of the book is Parables from the Outskirts of Polite Society. I understand the significance. I can make the adjustment, but I feel like I live on the outskirts of polite society, close enough to get to it, but not necessarily feeling a need to be there. I'm well educated. I have a college degree. I take a class every 6 months for over 30 years now. Well traveled. I speak the King's English, basically. I'm a publicly elected official, homeowner, blah, blah, blah. I look like, you know, the clean cut, all-American looking, short hair, you know, all that. But I am from the neighborhood, man. I grew up with 15 people, a lot of love, no money. I've been hungry, I've been homeless. I'll never forget that. You get some humility when you're out there like that. You know what I mean? I have literally lived on the kindness of strangers and the fat of the land and the grace of God, literally. And you get some humility, and I never forget that. I never forget home, where my home is. I never forget that, regardless of how I appear. I can dress up really well. I clean up very well. Well, so I'm told. Anyway, I think I look good.
You look great.
But I think that this interview right here, and talking about this place, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do this. This is my home. This is my community right here. And I feel a great sense of responsibility to them, to all of us.
So is the stories you write are about your...
Oh, you asked me about the book. This is a book of short stories. They're all true, and there's a parable or lesson in every single story. I've had a very exciting life. I still do. And there are different topics, some about just general lessons, some about business. What is money? What is wealth? What is welfare? Some about family, because they're always with us. no matter what. The hardest chapter to write was one about forgiveness. Forgiveness, that was a challenge. That was by far the hardest chapter to write. But when you forgive, it doesn't necessarily harm them, and it doesn't. When you hold it, it doesn't. Resentment, whatever. It doesn't necessarily hurt the other person. It doesn't help you. But when you let it go, it's a yoke off of your neck. Good. There's a chapter on freedom. That's the last chapter. The price of freedom is you have to be willing to be your own master. It's not free. There's, I could get into it, I won't. I hope that it's like a reference book for your life. That's what it is.
And when you wrote the piece about forgiveness, was there a particular situation that you...
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about it?
Well...
Read the book.
Yeah, get the book. It's worth it.
It is
absolutely worth it. But let's just suffice to say that there are times when I write that I would write things I would never say. Because guys don't really, like this right now, we don't normally do that. There are times I write things I didn't know I think, because when you're writing, you're kind of in free flow sometimes. But there are times when I write when God puts his hands on the keyboard, and how I know is 2 hours later and I'm almost in tears and I've written something so extremely personal, I don't even want to tell my friends and family, but I realize that those were a gift to me, that they came from me but were not for me. And I didn't want to write fluff. I want to touch people's hearts. And when you tell the truth, when you're willing to stick your emotional neck out and bare your naked soul and be vulnerable, you can touch people's hearts and maybe set some captives free. That's the point. That's what the book is about. It's very worth it. Get the book.
When did you decide to write it? What inspired you to say, I'm going to write a book?
Well, my mother told me when I was about, 8, 9 years old, she said, you think an analogy, allegory, metaphor, and illusion. And I said, huh? What? Look it up. Back in those days, you had to look stuff up. I hated that. God, I hated when she did that. But that's why I know what these words are now today. What she was telling me is that I think in stories. That took me another 50 years to figure that out. And I was in Australia. I wrote this. I met this lady. Her name was Roma. She had written a book. And she said, I'd like to come to the United States and promote my book. Can I come and stay at your house for a week or so? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Now, people say that, but they never come. But she did come. So it was summertime. Days were long. Got dark, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. We were on the porch talking. She said, Summers, you ought to write a book. I was like, I don't even know how to think about that. People have been telling me how to write a book since I was probably 20, in my 20s. I said, I don't even know how to think about that. She said, I'll tell you how to think about it. Next time you catch yourself telling one of your campfire stories, make a note, a word, a phrase, a sentence. Come back later and fill it in. You already know the story. It's a no-brainer for you. So I got a little pad. This is my 5th one. I got it at the Dollar Tree. You get 3 for $1.
Yeah.
And I started making a note. The hard part was just to catch myself being myself, catch myself telling the stories, because the problem with having any gift is to the person with the gift, it's no big deal. They're just being who they are. Even though to other people might marvel at it, to them it's just, Michael Jordan never thought he was that great until he played with other people. But anyway, I started making a note, then I started filling them in later, like a few years later. And then I looked up and I had like 60, 80, something like that, a lot. A few years ago, I was at church and I met a guy and he said I was just telling him, I was talking like this, and I tell stories anyway, it's just kind of what I do. And he said, well, there's a publisher seminar you ought to go to. It was in Oak Brook. It's $150. Okay, fine. I went. I paid the money. And the day before, I saw another good friend of mine. And he said, what are you doing? I'm going to this publisher seminar. He said, can I go? Yes. So he paid his $150. We both went. There were maybe 80, 90 people there. The first half, they talked about skills and drills, how to get past writer's block, how to work with your computer, different things. The second half was a keynote speaker guy. He was, a big minister. He'd written probably 15 books or so. A lot of people knew him. I didn't know him, but a lot of people did. And he was talking about basically how to wrap your mind around writing, how to think about writing. And he said that there was a famous singer-songwriter at his church, and they were talking after church. The guy told him, well, songs that just come to me. I write them down. I got a whole file full of them. And later, another singer or singing group came to him and said, we would like, we like your style. Will you write some songs for us? And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. They signed a contract. He waited about 6 or 8 weeks, looked in his file, picked like 15 songs and said, here, pick 8. And they thought, oh man, this is great. He wrote these songs for us. The point was, you always want to write. You want to write all the time. So you never want to be wanting for a good opening, a good filler, a good line, if you write all the time, then you have this basically in your file. He said this guy was in the overflow. And he was still talking. My friend leaned over to me in my ear and he said, Summers, look around this room. 90% of these people are in the process of writing a book or thinking about writing a book. You already have at least 50 stories written. You're already in the overflow. And it's like this big veil lifted off my face. I could see it. I never saw it before that. And probably within 3 months, the book was done. So there are some stories that have a parable or a lesson, which is this book. And then the other stories are just like entertaining. They're just entertaining.
And they're all from your life.
Oh, yeah.
And tell me you told me you were homeless twice.
Yeah.
When was the second time?
The second time I was married. It's in the book, actually. I was married to a woman. She had a 12-year-old son. He was in middle school. And I just graduated from college, got a great corporate job, hated it. But I had a company car, expense account. I was a sales rep covering Texas and New Mexico. And I was like the only black guy in this whole division. It was like 27 people. I was the only black guy. I was the youngest one. The next guy had been there like 7 years, and then everybody more than that. And I just looked at all these accounts and I just started going to see every single one of them. I think the sales rep before me was kind of mailing it in, you know what I mean? I went to see every single one of them. I was putting 1,000 miles a week on my car, just go. Within 6 months, I was number 2 in sales in America in this division. And so I went to my boss and I said, I'd like to get a raise. I'm number 2 in sales in the country. He said, well, be patient, son. Follow some of these old guys around, learn the ropes. And I'm thinking, okay. And because understand, I paid my way through having businesses all the way through college. In my 9th month, I sold a whole truckload, like a big semi-truckload of this product. And I went back to my boss and I said, I'd like to get a raise. Now, at this point, I'm 6 months into next year's goal. And he said, be patient, son. Follow these veterans around and, learn the ropes. And I said, how about this? What if I just go home for 3 months? You pay me. I'll come back in January. You're still 6 months ahead of the game. And we go back from there. He got so angry. He got really ticked off. And I realized right then, I'm not a corporate guy. So I quit. But I wasn't ready to quit.
A little bit impulsive.
Yeah. Yes. So I got a job. I got 2 jobs. Then I had another little other thing. I just wasn't making enough money. And, we got put out. The sheriff put a big stamp on the door, big red, orange, man. Orange neon. Evacuate the premises, Eviction. Put all your stuff on the curb. It was horrible.
It was you, your wife, and her son.
Yes.
All out on the street.
Yes. And, people ride by and they, real slow and they look at you and you feel about that big. And my wife and her son looking at me like, you horrible man, how could you let this happen? But for me, I was almost, I wasn't in denial. It was just almost like watching myself in a movie. I don't have time to be upset about that because we still got to eat. We still got to find somewhere to sleep, and that's the deal. And that's what I'm thinking about. And you can be mad if you want to, but that's what I'm thinking about. And long story short, I thought, well, I need money. It takes money to make money. But if it takes money to make money and I don't have any money, can I afford that belief? No. So I changed it. It takes ideas to make money. I can afford that belief. I'm leaning against this little tree, and all my stuff right is sprawled out on the curb, right? And so the next thought is, okay, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Where can I go? What can I do? Who do I know? It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm 1,200 miles from home. I don't know anybody. So if it's not what you know, it's who you know, and I don't know anybody, can I afford that belief? No. So I changed it. When you make up your mind, the facts don't matter. Make a commitment, the right people always show up. I can afford that belief. So what was one of the worst days of my entire life turned out to be one of the best days of my entire life. Because on that day, I learned how to challenge my beliefs, listen to the words that come out of my mouth, challenge them to something that will serve me. It was a good day. It was a bad day. But
and
it was
where
a
did you
good-
sleep that night?
I don't, well, we worked it out. It was, God smiles on me. God smiles on me, and I know it. Praise God. All praise to God. It worked out, Lady took us in. We didn't even know her. She just took us in, Good. So that's what happened. Mm-hmm.
So to end, because I know I've kept you a long time, coming back to here, do you, what do you hope for this place? What do you hope happens?
Well, ultimately, I thought about landmark status, possibly that. Ultimately, that this place that has done so for over 100 years, this place was built, I think, in 1905 or something like that it continues to serve and develop people in this community, and that people in this community have a stake in it, that we are already vested in it, but that we have a stake in it and have some say in what goes on here and how it can help continue to develop people in this community right here in the Fifth Ward. That's my great desire. That is my hope.
I have one other question that I wanted to ask you. In all your travels and your life as a black man in America, what kinds of racism have you encountered? Have you encountered it? How have you dealt with it?
It's the water we swim in. It's pervasive. Yes, every black man's been followed around in a store, stopped by the police for something, maybe had guns pulled on you, maybe been thrown in jail for something. I've been in jail a few times, it sucks too. They closed that door, it sounds real final. I wasn't in prison, just in jail, for a few days. And they close that door and it's a clank, and you turn around and you look at these people and you say, I'm not supposed to be in here with these people. And they look at you the same way, you know what I mean? When I got integrated, went to another school across the canal on the white folks side of the canal. Lincolnwood. I went to Lincolnwood, yes, for 1 year. And the principal didn't want us there, the teachers didn't want us there, the parents didn't want us there. The saving grace is that the kids were great. They were just kids like we were kids. They were funny and curious and clean just like we were. Now, first maybe a week or two we had to fight getting off the bus, but the good thing is we really could fight, But after that, they were just kids like us.
And until you went to Lincolnwood, was that sort of when you... I spoke to someone and they said, well, when I first went to an integrated school, that's when I realized I was a black person. Or, it's when it became clear.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. There was one teacher I had. She was taught French, Miss Bétarette Paris. That was her name. And the principal's name was Mrs. Hoffman. Both of them. I'm calling them out right now. The French teacher would put me out in the hallway every single time. She came twice a week. Twice a week I'm out in the hallway. You're chewing gum. You're talking in class. You're reading when you should be looking at me out in the hallway. Okay? All right, fine. Fine. I don't like you anyway. And another teacher, I was out in the hallway and he said, do you have a pass to be in the hall? No, I do not. Well, down to the principal. Okay, fine. I haven't done anything. I go to the principal. She says, Summers, you're a problem child. And I said, no, ma'am. I am not a problem child. I went to foster school. I was a patrol boy. I always got good grades. I said the Pledge of Allegiance in front of school 2 or 3 times. I am not a problem child. The only difference between me now and then is 3 months over the summer and coming here. I am not a problem child. You're my problem. This place is my problem. Now, I'm 11 years old, okay? But I was very clear about who I am and where I'm from. And this place right here where we're sitting right now, phenomenal foundation. She couldn't tell me I was a problem child. I didn't believe it. Wow. Got kicked out. First time I ever got kicked out of school, you know? And, you know, my mother had to come back, and my mother, God bless her, she just told me, you know, don't say anything. Let me do the talking, which she did, you know. I've never had teachers lie on me until then. I'm not, when I ran for the Board of Education, I went to every single school except that one. For some reason, I would like pull up and go in the parking lot and just leave, man. I was 30 years later, 40 years later. It was just, you know, it was like, I don't want to go in there. You know, it was like at a cellular level. I didn't want to go in there, you know.
So what made you run for the school board? And what was your goal in getting on it?
I knew that there were going to be no black folks on the school board in a district with 50+% black and Latino kids. And I asked probably 30 other people to run, and nobody would do it. And, you know, we always hope other people do things, and you look in the mirror and you realize it's you. But anyway, I opened the curtain. It was 2 or 3 days because I had already picked up a packet, but I was going to give it to whoever, you know, whoever was going to step up. And it was January. The petitions needed to be turned in on Tuesday, like January 15th or something like that. It's like the 12th now. Saturday morning, I opened the curtains, 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. I see these 2 little kids walk past my house. I know them. They live on my block. I opened up the door. It was freezing outside. Put your hood on, boy. It's cold out here. Little snag 6-year-old turns around and smiles and puts his hood on. And from the grave, my grandfather, my mother called me. Summers, the world does not revolve around you. It's a service you give to others that makes your life more valuable. Where's the greatest need? And I'm looking at the greatest need walk down the street. But it's almost like looking at myself walk down the street. I grew up on that block too, okay? And I backed away from the window. I was like, no, no, no. Because I knew it was too much work and too much time and no money, and whatever you do, half the people disagree. And in Evanston, people disagree very loudly. And they disagree on TV, and they disagree in the round table. And you understand?
Facebook.
Yeah. And I mean, I grew up with, you know, political people. I did. I knew it was, I never wanted to do that. And so I'm backing up, no. And then I asked myself a few questions. First question, would the little boy I used to be, a 6-year-old, wanted to be an astronaut, some other things, would he still admire me today? Would he still want to watch me, be with me, hold my hand when we walk across the street? Yes. Next question. Is this something that my grandfather, who's my hero, my grandfather, my elders, and my ancestors would be proud to see me do, to step up, represent the whole community? Yes. Then this other question came out of nowhere. It was a zinger. If I did not win, would I still do the work? Would I still go to bat for these children to help improve their lives? Now understand, at the time I was a greedy fat caterpillar eating up all the leaves. You know, me, what I need, what I like, what I want. But the answer came back, yes. So at that point, it's the Warrior's Creed. It's a good day to die. Grab your rifle and let's go.
What year was it?
What year?
Yeah.
2005. I raised 300 signatures in 2 days, turned in my petitions on Tuesday, left the country on Wednesday for 3 weeks, came back and ran like crazy. Let's do this. Let's go. Because I figured if I win, I win. If I lose, I still win. You know, I was all in, nothing to lose.
And what do you have, like, something that you're proudest of?
Yes. From before my mother died, in the end, she was kind of losing it mentally a little bit. But one day, in a perfect moment of clarity, she said, "Son, I apologize for taking you out of the bosom of foster school and sending you to school where, first of all, they did not treat you well, but more importantly, they did not expect much of you." She said, "Losing foster school was the worst mistake we ever made. It pulled the thread that unraveled our community." And she started sobbing. "I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry." And sobbing, man. I mean, just, And I'm holding this old lady in my arms, man. And she's sobbing. "I'm sorry, son." It etched it just engraved into my core. So when I ran for school board, on my, brochure, school in the 5th Ward. Number 1, boom. And for 7 years, there was only one person in the whole city wanting to school. It was me. 7 years later, went to a $24 million referendum. It lost 49% to 51%. And so, like I said, people say they love their diversity. Yeah, as long as it's gone by 3:30. Because there should be a school here. These are not just black kids and Latino kids. They're Evanston kids, and every other neighborhood has its own school, and there should be one here. Bottom line. But that's...
And that's what you fought for.
Absolutely.
That was your battle.
Absolutely. And it was on, it was on. It's still on. As a matter of, well, no, I'll leave it at that. It's still unresolved right now. But I figured when there's enough white people over here, they'll build a school. They're moving in right now, encroachment like crazy. Maybe I shouldn't call it that in Evanston. We love our diversity. All right. Anyway.
Anything else you want to tell me before I turn off?
I've been very candid with you.
You've been amazing. I'm like, could talk to you for another 6 hours. You really are a storyteller. This was really amazing. I would love to do this again, actually.
Well,
Ask you more questions. I'm freaking out, like praying that the microphone worked. If it didn't, I'll freak out. Is there anything else? Maybe even if it's about family.
I'm just cheering for this place. There's so many people, not only who are here now, Miss Colette and the guy who just locked up this door, and the people, the different services that are in this building, and just good people, good things happen here. But there's generations of people this is home for all of us. 1903, my mother was in school here in the 1920s. My grandfather maybe went to school here, I'm not sure. He was born in 1890 something. He may have went to school here, I don't know. But he lived in this neighborhood, I know that for sure. My father's been in this neighborhood since the 1890s. This place calls to our community, and we need to answer that call. We need to have a say of what happens here. It would be horrible to lose this place. So, onward. When I was growing up in this community, in the 5th Ward, we had all of our own stuff. We had a black hospital, community hospital, where I was born. All my siblings were born. Most of my relatives were born. We had our own school. We had foster school. We had foster center, which is now Fleetwood Jourdain. We had delicatessens, Jack Moss. We had gas stations. We had restaurants. We had a pharmacy, Doc Morrison's pharmacy. We had little mom and pop grocery stores and corner stores. We had 2 taxi cab services. We had a bus service. We had a newspaper, the CCC. We had our own stuff. And after integration, all of that gone. It seems like we paid a heavy toll. very high price for diversity. And to lose this place is just another big rip from our community. That's how I feel.